Hi, I'm Shagra, and I've only just got back into 40k, and in 5 short months I'll be attending London GT, the biggest Warhammer tournament in Europe. Before I can take down such a colossal event, I need to learn to play just like a world-class player. And before I can do that, I need to learn how to play like a half-decent player. And before even that, I need to learn how to play 10th edition. And before even that, I need an army. So here we are, at the first step of a long and exciting road to glory. I've played Imperial Knights almost exclusively for my entire time in this hobby, and whilst I still love my Iron Giants, I want something a bit more traditional. I spent my last 2 videos going into ridiculous detail analysing which army I wanted to pick, and after all of that deliberation, I chose the army I shat on for like 3 minutes straight, the Emperor's Children. I mentioned this in my last video, which you should absolutely check out, but I've wanted to play Emperor's Children ever since I first stepped into the hobby with the Assault on Blackreach starter set. The uncontested greatest box set Games Workshop has ever produced. It's just so glorious. When my dad took me to buy the box, the store manager showed me a leaflet with all the chapters of Space Marines and asked me which one I wanted to paint. And me, being fanatically obsessed with the colour pink my entire life, pointed to the Emperor's Children. The manager staunchly told me that you can't paint your Space Marines pink because that makes them Chaos Space Marines. And I've harboured a deep, brooding grudge against her ever since. Obviously, I didn't stay 10 years old for very long, and I could have started Emperor's Children at any time. But what was really annoying about pre-Codex Emperor's Children is that there was always a rumour saying Emperor's Children was just around the corner, and I didn't want to build a whole army just to lose half of it to a new book. Fast forward a decade and a half, and we're here. The Emperor's Children have finally arrived in all of their debaucherous glory, and I'm just so underwhelmed. This just isn't enough things to get wildly excited about. Once upon a time, I would have bought into the excitement of a hypothetical Wave 2, but after witnessing World Eaters wait 3 years just to get their 3rd 8-bound datasheet, I have no hopes of getting anything else anytime soon. I'm also just not really excited about what we did get. The battle line are insultingly playing for the god of excess, and whilst advance and charge and shoot is an extremely powerful army rule, it doesn't incite much excitement. To put it lightly, I was very disappointed. Except this is how I felt before picking up the army box. I decided that I had waited too long to pass on the army. The 3rd Legion is my absolute favourite Warhammer faction of all time. I love them so much, I even started reading The Lord of Excess. This is literally the first book I have read since the 3rd Diary of a Wimpy Kid book. I don't even want to know how long ago that was. I can't give up on my Legion just because they didn't get all the fun toys that other armies got. I guess that's the very first hurdle of my road to London sorted. I've selected my army. Next comes the absolute best part, buying the army. And this leg of the journey technically started months ago. When Games Workshop first revealed the Emperor's Children but had only showed off Fulgrim's model, I don't think a single announcement has ever gotten the very core of my being this excited before. I remember exactly where I was when the news broke. I was in a hotel at the end of day 1 of a Pokemon TCG regionals. When I saw the news, I instantly lost all interest in the event I had paid hundreds to attend, and I just wanted to get my hands on some pink paint. In fact, here's a real testament to how excited I was. As soon as I got back from the regional, I marched all the way to Games Workshop, an arduous 2-minute walk from my house, and brought a box of Chaos Terminators at full price. Full price! I am such a cheapwad, I won't buy anything Warhammer unless I can get it secondhand for at least half price. This was the first ever model kit that I'd purchased from Games Workshop, and I didn't even care that I just spent 40 fucking quid of hard earned money on a kit older than most of my audience. I even brought a Slanesh scented candle to get me in the mood to paint. I was hoping it would smell like girl pee. Or girl sweat, you know, something Slaneshi, but it just kind of smells like the type of cheap aftershave you'd give a nephew for Christmas. Probably not worth 12 quid to be honest, but I digress. I got home and immediately assembled a Terminator ready to paint. I entered a state of focus like never before. The biggest obstacle for me in literally anything as someone diagnosed with ADHD but still waiting to be medicated is to focus. But I wanted this Terminator to look good so bad, I forced myself to focus. Every errant thought, every impulse to move, every single word out of my girlfriend's mouth was parried by my brain as I put paint to plastic. And when I awoke the other side of this genuine moment of zen, I was devastated. The model looked awful. The pink was so blotchy and inconsistent. No matter how many times I looked over it to plug up the horrible white gaps, more would pop up. The trim looked revolting. The tutorial made it look so easy, just an edge highlight of silver over black, but I found it impossible to make it look anything resembling nice. I was so upset by this model that I chucked it back in the box and shoved it under my bed to forget about it. And I laid on that bed experiencing the most profound batch of buyer's remorse I have ever experienced. That box laid there for months while I bounced from idea to idea on what impulse purchase to make next. That was actually the inspiration behind my first Warhammer video. And in that time, I had one of my month-long autistic obsessions, this time with insects, and I started making a bug-themed Custodes army. But like all gimmick armies, once the gimmick wears off and I'm no longer randomly interested in bugs, I'm just left with a box full of impulse purchases. It was only then, after looking back at every ambitious gimmick and theme that I had failed to deliver on over all my hobbies, I realized that I shouldn't give up on the Emperor's Children. It was my dream army for as long as I can remember, and it's what got me back into the hobby in the first place. And that brings us to just a couple of days ago. I brought the army box after seeing a single one left at my LGS. Although as soon as I brought that box, they brought another one out from back and immediately put it on the empty shelf. And I certainly felt a little slow after falling for the oldest sales trick in the book. I brought my box back home and sat it on my dresser, and I told myself I wasn't going to dig into it until I had finished that week's work. The box would be my reward, and it sat there all week whispering to me, slowly try to corrupt me just like Fulgrim's sword. Open a Shagrot. You don't need to finish your work. Come paint a Shagrot. Surely you won't hate it a second time. The joys of unmedicated self-employment. But I eventually got the work done, and I finally got to crack open my box. Here's the plan, I told myself. I'm gonna make and paint as much of the box as possible. Ideally all of it, but just the 20 troops if I can't do that. And I'm gonna make a video out of it. I'll call it Making the Pinkest Army of All Time. Or maybe Painting the Pinkest Warhammer Army in 24 Hours Challenge. But of course, that's not how it went. At the end of the day, falling slightly short of my lofty goal of the entire box, I made and painted a single model. And again, I was just so disappointed with it. Between this one and my last Terminator, I'd painted a bunch of random models pink, and I was really starting to love the pink I was getting. But something about the Infractor sculpt was just so intimidating. It started off fine, but I couldn't get the wash how I wanted it. I'm a bit peculiar with my pinks. I love a range of pinks, particularly light, almost pastel pinks, and I love a deep, moody pink as well. But I really don't like hot pink. I don't know why, it's just not very nice on my eyes. I think Monster Ultra Strawberry is the greatest color palette of all time, and that's kind of what I was going for with this army, but man, this wasn't it. With yet another defeat under my belt, the temptation to give up on the box was already starting to creep in. I couldn't add this box to the pile of shame. Pile of shames are much like Hollywood directors. They gain so much power over time, and if you keep ignoring them, they'll harass all the women in your life. For the first time in my entire hobbying life, I'm putting my foot down. No more failed projects. I built the entire box without painting it. This way I can start to get practice in and learn how to play 10th. I have months to get this army painted, and I want to take my time for once. I'm gonna whittle this army down day by day. I was gonna set the goal of doing a model a day, but even then I think that limits me too much, and I want to take my time. So my goal is just to put paint on plastic each day, and I'll be posting my daily progress in my community post. So feel free to give me feedback or just ask about whatever's going on in the hobby that day. Currently, my army is the Box Boys and a squad of Terminators. I'm going to pick up some more bits to bump this up to 1,000 points so I can test what aspects of the armies I like and see how I want to take it to 2k. I'm really tempted to just pick up a Helldrake. That would be 1k with some enhancements. It's just such an iconic model, and I have some cool lore for him. My Drake's going to be the manifestation of all airborne sins that took place over humanity, much like how Slaanesh themselves were birthed. Every inappropriate gesture to a stewardess, every bathroom sink line of coke, and every entry into the Mile High Club brought forth this demon engine into existence. Does this make any sense? No, not at all. But what it is a cool excuse to give him the name Lolita Express. And I just think that's a fantastic name for a Slaaneshi flyer. My very last concern for this video is paint scheme. Emperor's Children more than any other army in the game should be a slam dunk, right? I paint everything pink and they're the pink army. I plan to have these be the first models I ever paint in the correct scheme. But I have this little voice in my head telling me that if I paint my army this way, it'll be boring. There's nothing special about my army if it's painted just like the box. I need something that makes my army unique. Oh my god, I might actually be falling to Slaanesh. I tested a fully pastel scheme inspired by Bubblegum Angels on Instagram, and whilst I really love the pink, I wasn't too fond of the surrounding colours. I've also tested adding some green and white to the mix, and so far I'm loving this. This is inspired by my favourite colour scheme of all time, the cat tail from Plants vs Zombies. I really like this scheme, but now the voice is whispering to me that this isn't pink enough. And oh god, I've spent so long deliberating on the trims. I think I'm going to keep it silver and maybe make the characters gold for a bit more decadence, but so far nothing I've made is really sparking joy. I'm just going to keep testing until I land on something I like. The last thing I want to mention in this video is that I have really come around to the Emperor's Children as an army. After spending days putting the battle line together, they do have a remarkable sleekness to them, and their poses really do have a lot of character. They still don't really compare to the other factions' battle line, but I realise that doesn't matter, because Noise Marines might be the greatest models ever made. I already loved them when they were revealed, they were the absolute saving grace of the army, but only once you spend the time putting 12 of them together, wow, they are just perfect. They're so beefy and genuinely excessive. They might actually be perfect. It might have even topped the Crutox Rider as my all-time favorite kit. Maybe, I don't know. That model is a masterpiece. I hated the Coneheads so much when they were revealed, but not only are there plenty of non-Conehead options, these are fantastic models when you really look closer at them. Their chest pieces mimic that U-Bell style of one breast androgyny, the laziest kind of androgynous character design albeit, but I think it really works as a callback to Slaaneshi demons. And I really love their exposed six-packs. It brings a lot of the sluttiness that I initially thought the army was missing. I originally hated the Advance and Charge army role, it just sounded dull, but I really did underestimate the almost dance that you have to perform with this army role. And man, they fucking smashed it with the detachments. I'm so excited to try out Codices of the Conceited. It reminds me of playing a hyperscaling champion League of Legends. Rough early game, but monstrous late, if you can survive. And the Slaanesh Demonkin detachment just sounds super fun. Dropping demons on top of your opponent kind of sounds like summoning if you're really coping. Somehow they even made the Rhino detachment sound fun. I just can't wait to sink my teeth into this book. Lastly, and most importantly, my apologies to Fulgrim. My single biggest disappointment was how I felt about Fulgrim. I couldn't put a finger on it, but I was just let down by his sculpt. I thought the Forge Rod one was fantastic, but there was just something missing about this one. But then people started leaking their pre-orders. Look at the fat fucking ass cheeks on that boy. Now that is my Primarch. I have a long way to go before I'm topping London with my boys in pink. But I'm just glad that I finally started to overcome my hobby anxiety. My biggest goal for this journey is to create the ultimate Warhammer playlist called Road to London GT, inspired by the best episode of television ever created. And I want this to be something I can look back for a long time and reminisce. I'll be documenting everything that happens in this journey, just like this video, and I'll be putting it in that playlist. So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel so you can keep up with the journey. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Last minute update to this video actually. In my last video, I made a comment about how I wish the Emperor's Children models had high heels to bring some of that androgynous villain vibe that they were missing. And I got so many comments saying that that was a lame idea, that I was turning the faction into a meme. And a really unfortunate amount of homophobic comments complaining that I was making the army gay. But then the flawless blade kit was revealed. And man, would you look at that. They're all wearing 9-inch heels and they look fucking badass. So yeah, if you left a comment like that, eat shit and stay losing. These models look sick and I absolutely love them.